Hi, my name is Melissa Payne. I'm the author of The Secrets of Lost Stones, which was the winner of the mainstream fiction category for the Colorado Authors League Book Award. The Secrets of Lost Stones is a book about the bonds between a mother and a child and the redemption that comes from facing the past and letting it go. The selection I've decided to read is when Star, a 15-year-old homeless girl, first meets Jess, a woman who tragically lost her son 8 years ago. And I think it kind of highlights, it's the beginning of the story, and it shows the beginning of their relationship and the moment when each of them decides to take a chance. She leaned against the brick wall by the chocolate shop with her knees drawn up, arms wrapped around her shins. The stubborn spring air hadn't let go of winter's chill, and a constant drip from her nose had created a split in the very corner of her nostril that made her eyes water. This morning, she'd woken up to find it tender and bleeding. She'd used the scarf to dab at it gently, but her breath fogged in the cold air and her nose ran freely, making it hurt even worse. The ground felt hard and cold through her thin leggings, and a dull pain had begun to spread behind her eyes. Today, she felt weak and small and very, very alone. Star? A woman's voice. She pressed her forehead into her knees, let her hair fall over her face, and breathed out. Her stomach somersaulted. She'd often wondered when social services would catch up to her, and on a day like today, she felt extra vulnerable. But she'd sworn she'd never go back to being a foster kid. She'd been one since she was 8 years old, and she was so fucking tired of the system. Tired of the families who didn't want a sad teenage girl with klepto issues sleeping in the room next to their precious blonde-haired daughter. Even tired of the ones who at least pretended to care, but when shit got hard, didn't actually care enough. She dug her nails into her thighs. Star was convinced that her mother would never have let the world fall apart the way her father did. Sometimes at night, she dreamed about her mom. Her memories were small pieces that didn't always make sense. A whiff of cinnamon, the soft grittiness of soil between her fingers, her cheek resting against a pillowy chest. She'd been only 5 when her mom got sick, but the one thing Star did remember was how safe she felt back then. Safe and warm and loved. The woman cleared her throat, shifted her feet. Good, she's uncomfortable. Serves her right. Star rubbed her nose across her leggings, dug her fingers into her legs. This woman would have to drag her back into foster care because no matter how cold her ass got, Star was not moving from that spot. I have something for you, came her voice again, and this time Star thought she recognized it. She peered over her knees. The younger woman from the other day stood opposite her, brown hair pulled back into the same tight ponytail. She had a look about her that Star knew, an emptiness that made her eyes dull. It was a look Star often saw on the streets and before when her dad was still alive. She shivered and pushed the thought of her dad out of her head. She was 8 when he died, and unlike her mom, those memories had sharp claws that tore away at her. Right now, she had too much to deal with. I'm Jess, the woman said. Star crossed her arms, narrowed her eyes. What did she care? Unless you have a 20 and a soda, I'm not interested. Jess turned her head and looked around and behind Star, like she was searching for someone. She frowned. Where do you live? Nosy, that's what she was. Lady, that's none of your business. She picked up her cup and got to her feet, taking a seat on the garden wall opposite Jess. Your grandmother is creepy. Jess chuckled. You're not wrong. And you're a bit of a smartass, huh? Star raised her chin and gazed at Jess, unblinking. You bet. Jess opened her mouth and shut it. She held out a small white envelope. Here, this is for you. Star didn't move from her spot. What's that? It's a note. Jess stepped forward, placed it on a brick wall beside her. Star noticed how she rubbed at her wrist with the fingers of her other hand, back and forth, like one of those worry stones. It's from Lucy, not me. Star shrugged, ignoring the note beside her, even as a burning curiosity made it difficult not to ask Jess a billion questions. Jess smiled. Lucy is unusual, Star. I can't argue with you about that. But that probably makes whatever she says in your note worth reading. Star thumped her heels against the brick wall, pretending she didn't care, but a panicky feeling expanded inside of her. What did Jess want? Or the old woman? What could they know about her? If they'd ever seen her caseworker's file on Star, then they know she was prone to stealing, hard to love, and even harder to place. But a wrench in her gut told her that the woman knew something else. Star's chest tightened. There were worse things about her than what her caseworker knew. She tried to glance casually down the street, gauging how quickly she could run and disappear if she needed to. How do you know my name? Jess's forehead wrinkled. Not really. I just guessed at Lucy's crossword puzzle. Lucy must have known it somehow. For a second, Jess looked confused, her face scrunched up like she was thinking too hard. I made Star want to laugh. You must have told Lucy or something, Jess continued. Anyway, you left an impression on her, so she asked me to give that to you. What is it? I have no idea. To tell you the truth, I've known her only a few days myself. But what's the harm in reading it, Star? Hearing her name spoken again in Jess's firm but soft voice felt comforting in a way that made Star's eyes itch. She trained her gaze on the ground, shrugged. Jess's feet moved back and forth, but she didn't leave right away. Star sensed she wanted to say something more. Jess sighed and stopped, so close that Star smelled a light citrus scent. She picked up the envelope, and Star heard the scratching of pen on paper. I don't know your situation, Star, but if you're alone and need help, I know a couple of shelters that only take kids. They're safe places. Jess set the envelope back down beside her, and from the corner of her eye, Star noticed a couple of names and addresses written in black ink. And then on top of the envelope, Jess placed a 20, followed by another 20. Star's eyes bugged wide. $40? Take care of yourself, Jess said. The streets are no place for a kid like you. She hesitated, mumbled, or for any kid. Jess's boots disappeared from Star's view. She lifted her gaze and watched her walk away, shoulders hunched, one hand rubbing the other wrist, back and forth, back and forth. Star pocketed the cash and picked up the envelope. A chill raced along her shoulder blades at the sight of her name written across the front. She ran her fingertips along the pointed edge of the envelope, then slid her finger underneath the flap. It opened easily. Inside was a folded sheet of paper that matched the envelope, smooth and thick. But when she unfolded the note, a thin rectangular piece of paper fell from its folds and fluttered to the ground. A bus ticket. Star hopped up from the wall and snatched the ticket off the ground. She stuffed it back into the envelope and shoved the envelope deep into the pocket of her coat. Lucy had sent her a bus ticket. Then she pulled out the bent and crumpled envelope. She tightened her grip to stem the trembling in her hand and pulled open the note. In a delicate script, it read, Dear girl, here is what I know. 1. You watched your best friend die. 2. You are not a liar unless you need to be. 3. You are not an addict, but you do let something rule your life, fear. 4. You think you are better off alone. Everyone deserves a second chance. Consider this your invitation to come and stay at my house. Use this ticket to take the 401 to Pine Lake. From the bus stop, walk west on Main Street for 1 block, take a right at the Mountain Market, follow the path to the house at the top of the hill that overlooks the lake, ring the doorbell. Lucy. Thank you, and thank you again to Cal for such a lovely and amazing award.